as 30-year-old Kyle Busch. Tonight he earns his first Cup title. Kyle Busch, the 2015 NASCAR Sprint Cup champion.
Richard Childress just sent shockwaves through NASCAR with a decision no one saw coming. The architect behind RCR's legendary legacy has made another bold move, one that's already raising alarms inside the garage. This sudden shift doesn't just reshape the team's direction. It puts unexpected pressure on Kyle Busch and creates a challenge the number 8 crew didn't anticipate heading into 2026. Childress' path to prominence in NASCAR wasn't paved in gold. He began as a scrappy driver in 1969, racing with minimal sponsorship, limited tools, and raw determination. Racing back then was grueling and uncertain, and for years, Childress fought for every lap, dollar, and inch of respect. Eventually, he saw his true calling, not behind the wheel, but behind the pit wall. He transitioned from driver to owner, building his own team from the ground up. That team reached new heights when Dale Earnhardt Sr. joined in the 1980s. Their partnership yielded over 200 victories, 67 of them with Earnhardt. Together, they redefined dominance. Yet RCR's story wasn't without controversy. In 1998, during an exhibition race in Japan, Earnhardt Sr. and his son Dale Jr. found themselves in an unforgettable duel. With only 10 laps left, Jr. received a set of fresh tires, originally intended for Sr.'s car thanks to a decision by Childress. Jr. made the most of it, overtaking his father and pushing him into the wall. Tensions were high after the race, with Jr. later joking that his father threw a shoe at him. Childress has always walked a tightrope between loyalty and ambition. Fast forward to Richmond Raceway just before the playoffs. Austin Dillon, one of RCR's drivers, needed a win to qualify. In a dramatic final lap, he collided with Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin. While Dillon crossed the line first, radio communications revealed an order to wreck Logano. NASCAR responded swiftly. 25 driver and owner points were docked, and the win did not secure a playoff spot. The cost? More than $3 million in penalties and a massive blow to RCR's reputation. Despite these setbacks, Childress never walked away. For over 5 decades, he remained committed, battling through every high and low. That grit led him to make a daring choice in recent years, bringing in Kyle Busch. Busch, a driver known for his intensity and volatility, had a rocky history with RCR. In 2011, after a heated on-track incident, Childress punched Busch in the garage. The memory lingered, making Busch's eventual signing with RCR one of the most shocking in NASCAR history. But Childress saw something more: a matured competitor, a dedicated father, and a relentless worker. Busch, even during winless stretches, stayed engaged. He spent countless hours in simulators, pushed his crew, and elevated the team's performance standards. Childress believed in his potential, not just as a driver, but as a catalyst to revive RCR's legacy. That belief translated into a bold gamble, with Childress pouring resources into Busch's program. However, Busch's arrival unearthed internal fractures at RCR. Longtime team members and other drivers, particularly Austin Dillon, Childress's grandson, felt overshadowed. Reports indicated Busch received top-tier equipment first, more simulator time, and greater influence in team meetings. Tensions mounted, and whispers of favoritism grew louder. Dillon, once the face of RCR, suddenly seemed sidelined. His results dipped, and body language suggested frustration. The dynamic was clear. The old guard of RCR clashed with the new Busch-led direction. Childress found himself caught between family loyalty and competitive ambition. Eventually, the pressure boiled over. Childress called an emergency meeting with all staff, drivers, engineers, crew chiefs, and marketing personnel. He acknowledged the dysfunction and declared a new era. "If you can't help us win, you're gone," he warned. This wasn't just a pep talk. Within weeks, RCR underwent a massive internal restructuring. Key personnel were reassigned or let go, departments merged, and even Dillon's crew was shuffled. Childress made it clear RCR would no longer tolerate complacency or politics. It was time to get serious or get out. This shakeup marked the most significant transformation at RCR in a decade. The decision to center the team around Busch wasn't just a bet, it was a statement. Childress was willing to challenge comfort zones, even family dynamics, to restore RCR to its former glory. But that move also comes with risks. Betting the farm on one driver, especially one with a volatile past, can either reignite a team or burn it down. If Busch delivers a championship, Childress's gamble pays off spectacularly. If not, he risks fracturing the foundation of his team permanently. And yet, Busch wasn't the same hothead from a decade ago. He had evolved. Childress saw a driver who cared about more than just trophies. Busch was mentoring young talent, engaging with fans more openly, and representing RCR with professionalism. Still, the pressure was immense. The NASCAR garage is unforgiving, and scrutiny never fades. Every pit stop, every restart, every strategy call was under the microscope. For Busch, it wasn't just about racing, it was about proving he belonged, not just on the track, but in the RCR family. Meanwhile, the ripple effects of Busch's presence continued. Sponsors took notice. Media attention intensified. Other teams began preparing differently, knowing that RCR was no longer the underdog. The 2025 season was pivotal. RCR needed results. Every race became a referendum on Childress's decision. Could Busch handle the expectations? Would Dillon reclaim his form? Could the team navigate its internal divisions and come out stronger? In many ways, this wasn't just a battle on the track, it was a war for RCR's identity. Childress, now in his late 70s, had spent his life building and rebuilding. His willingness to start over, again at this stage of his career, spoke volumes about his dedication. Ultimately, whether this gamble succeeds or fails, it will be remembered as one of the most courageous and controversial moves in NASCAR history. It's a reminder that greatness often requires risk. And for Childress, the legacy he's fighting to protect may just hinge on the driver he once punched, now leading the charge. Yet the question of stability lingers. Can Busch, known for his fiery temperament, maintain his composure and consistency over an entire season? Will the internal restructuring truly fix RCR's systemic issues or merely cover them temporarily? The eyes of the NASCAR world are glued to every development. Furthermore, the business side of the sport can't be ignored. Busch's presence has reinvigorated RCR's marketability. Merchandise sales have spiked. Television segments focus more on the team. And with increased visibility comes increased pressure. Success is no longer optional, it's essential. Insiders have also noted how the crew's morale has shifted. Some younger team members feel inspired by Busch's work ethic and transparency. But there are still those clinging to the old ways, resistant to change. The culture war within RCR might be quiet, but it's not over. In a sport where every second counts, every pit stop matters, and every decision is dissected, RCR is balancing on a knife's edge. But with Kyle Busch at the wheel and Childress steering the vision, the team is charging forward. So here's the real question. Did Richard Childress just revive a dynasty or accelerate its collapse? Time will tell. But one thing is certain, he's not backing down, and neither is Kyle Busch.
That night at the campfire, we were talking, and he said, I told him, I said, Dale, if anything ever happens to me, you know you got to go on and race the next week. You'd have had to went on in Phoenix and race. And he said, well, if it ever happens to me, you got to do that. And I thought about that. I was going to quit till I thought about that.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What a race! California's Kevin Harvick does it!
Straight making right there. You're the man.
It's ninth in Phoenix.
Welcome to Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour, presented by NASCAR on Fox. And this week's guest, I have been looking forward to for a while, is Richard Childress. And Richard, I can't tell you how excited I am to have you sitting in this chair. I know that, for me, RCR was a great part of my career. But to have you here today, I just appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you, Kevin. It's, I think back 25 years.
Gosh.
And
we're old.
Did you ever think that we'd be sitting in here? You'd be a TV star, a podcast star, and one great race driver. So, how time has flown away from us.
Yeah, and I think back to a lot of those moments, and whether it was you or Mike Helton talking about enjoying whether it was the banquet. And I remember like it was yesterday. Hey, we need to go into whoever's, I think it was Jeff Gordon's championship party in 2001. And it's like, hey, you got to go into this party and just at least say hi and congratulate them and make sure that you go in and because you just never know what's going to happen next. And I think that was always something that I remembered. And to be able to, come into this sport and have the leadership that whether it was you or Mike or whatever I was doing wrong, went a long ways into my career. So I appreciate that, and it's fun to have you here. But let's get started with this. I want to start about this year, and I think when you look at this year, you started last year with Kyle, and to be able to kind of get that ball rolling right off the bat with race wins, and then second half of the year kind of up and down. Get started this year. Same thing, right? I thought, man, you had a shot to win the Daytona 500. Talk to me about the ups and downs of the year. You've made some changes throughout the year, and just where the performance and your team is at after almost winning the race again yesterday.
Yeah, well, we've it's been one of those years, crashes. We've been involved in so many crashes. I think Austin Rick was involved in the first 6 races this year. So that put him so far behind. Kyle, he's been involved in several crashes. I talked to him this morning, and he said maybe I should have been a little more patient. But, when you got somebody breathing down your back, you're leading a race with 20, 25 to go, you just make the move you think it's right. And I told him, I said, man, don't worry, we're going to win some races. And it's been a tough year, but everybody has fought hard. We see that we got to make some changes, and we got more changes coming. You're going to be hearing about in the next month probably, and we're excited about next year. You can't dwell on the past. You got to learn from the past. History teaches you, and that's what we got to learn from, is what happened this year, and take it into next year with a positive attitude that we're not going to do it.
Yeah, and you've always been pretty aggressive when it was time to make changes. You have this extreme balance between being patient, and then it's like, okay, I'm ready to make those changes. And we saw you change competition directors. We saw you make some changes within the teams with crew chiefs, and I think that that's always something that I've respected from what you do, is you're always so in the middle of the teams. Are you more involved, less involved? Because from the outside looking in, it looks like you're still pretty heavily involved.
Yeah, I'm still involved. I try to, I don't micromanage. I caught myself doing that quite a few years ago. Maybe even when you were driving, I was probably micromanaging too much. But, we got the PBR teams, we got the winery, we got a lot of things going on that I really enjoy doing. And I kind of leave a lot of this up to them, but I'm involved. I was there this morning. We were talking about both cars, how we were far off we were when we got there, and then both of them were really good at the end of the day.
When you look at this car, and I think Kyle is a great example. And with the old car, Kyle could do things that were just unbelievable because you could lean on that side force and you could put yourself in a position to where you could get out of it. And it seems like with this car, even like yesterday, you get in those spots where it just takes a little bit of air off the car and you spin out. And we've seen Kyle do that several times just because he pushes so hard. How have you seen it change from the team standpoint? We've talked about from the driver standpoint, but how has it changed the way that you function as a team with having to buy the parts from the vendors, NASCAR controlling so much? How has that changed what you guys do from the team side of things and just how you run the company and prepare the cars?
Yeah, well, this car, Kevin, has became such an engineer-driven car. And when we very first started it, I felt really good about this car. And then they kept taking spoiler away and adding horsepower, and they were doing so much to it, and now it's so hard to pass. Before you had enough of spoiler, it's always been tough to pass. Yeah. But I think the changes they've made has been difficult for the racing. That's my opinion. As a company, we were going to end up having to lay a lot of people off. I think about 40 people when we got this car, because we build our own chassis and do so much work at RCR. Instead, we're doing a lot of military work. We're doing a lot of other outside work, and we've actually hired more people and looking to hire more people now.
That's great.
For some of that kind of work, and I take the big responsibility for my employees and their family.
Yeah, I think I think that is probably one of the things that I learned. We'll kind of shift gears here, because when we can transfer right from you caring about your employees today all the way back to 2001. Obviously, we were in a difficult spot with everything that happened with Dale. Tell us about where you were in that time frame, with everything that happened from Dale. And I remember you telling me this like it was yesterday. We have to keep racing for the families of RCR. And it seems, when I hear you say that just now, nothing has changed. And I think when you look all the way back to 2001, that was the main reason that you decided to race, was it not?
Yeah. It's a long story, but Dale and I were on a mountain hunting, and his horse flipped over backwards. I could talk about it for an hour. I went off the mountain, busted my nose, got back to camp that night, busted my chest up. And he grabs me up and says, "Why'd you pull my horse off the mountain?" Dale.
Yeah.
But that night at the campfire, we were talking, and he said, I told him, I said, "Dale, if anything ever happens to me, you got to go on and race the next week. You'd have had to went on in Phoenix and race." And he said, "Well, if it ever happens to me, you got to do that." And I thought about that. I was going to quit till I thought about that. And so I knew we had to do it to keep things going for our company. And you were the right person at the right time.
When I look back at 2001, I remember that day. I remember not much about it. And let's see, I wrote it down. I remember that we raced 71 times, because we raced both national series. We ran the first truck race at KHI. Delane and I got married. We had a wedding, a party, and we raced that weekend. But the main things I remember from that year was the conversation to drive the car, the conversation to run both series, our wedding, and I drank my first bottle of wine. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's another $12,000 bottle of 1945.
That's right. So, and I remember going to ground zero. And, I think when I look back at that, and I had to write all this stuff down because I can't remember what I did yesterday, but those are, when you think about the rest of the things that happened that year with Dale's death, winning our first race, we won the Busch Series championship. I remember nothing about the Busch banquet. I don't know about you, but I don't even remember going. And, so what are the things that from that year that you look back at and say, man, how in the world did we even get through it? Because those are some of the highs. I know we all know the low with everything that happened, but what were some of the things from 2001 that stick out to you from that year that you actually remember, not just seeing?
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot, but I don't remember much.
Yeah, and it's like me. My memory is a little bit further away today. But I think the things I remember about it is how everybody pulled together so hard. And I ain't saying it because you're sitting here. I've said it before, is that I don't know of another driver that could have got in that car under the circumstance and the pressure of driving that car that Dale Earnhardt got. And you drove a car, you drove the cars he was driving, had been driving. And that could have did what we did. But the thing I remember that stands out is how much we all pulled together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think winning your first race at Atlanta, seeing Dale Jr. win, seeing, I think it was Parks, it was so many healing moments that the sport needed. And I think it started with your win in Atlanta, the third race, and going out there and winning it. Those are the things I remember, is a lot of those things were the healing moments that we all needed at that time.
Yeah, and I think, to go back and just, you think about Atlanta. I remember taking the pass 3 wide, and I remember the crowd and the noise coming from the crowd on that particular day. But I don't remember anything from Victory Lane. I don't remember coming to the start-finish line. I remember the people hanging on the back straightaway fence. They would climb up onto the back straightaway fence coming to get the white flag. But there are so many things that are just blank. And I think for me, the emotions that went with that particular season were just so confusing, because I didn't know whether to get out of the car and cheer. and be happy after we won the race. I didn't know I think we had so much to do, and there was so much on everybody's mind that you didn't really have the time to even think about what was going on. So it was just a very strange time as you look back on all that. But I want to get back to this bottle of wine, because I have a feeling